Hello, welcome to the second part of the mini lecture on audience analysis. In the first part of our lecture, we talked about the importance of audience analysis and why we do audience analysis, and we left off discussing values, beliefs, and attitudes. Today, we're actually going to discuss the process of audience analysis, how we actually go about conducting audience analysis. And there are really three main ways. We're talking about direct audience analysis, where we go out and interact with the audience directly, and these are through polls and surveys and interviews and focus groups. Indirect audience analysis, where we use secondary data, and demographic audience analysis, which is a form of indirect audience analysis. Let's go back and let's talk about one by one. Um, Direct audience analysis, polls and surveys. We're familiar with polls and surveys. Many of you are sports fans, and maybe you've even participated in a ESPN poll. Is Peyton Manning likely to return to the Indianapolis Colts? Is he likely to be traded? What is the percentage? Maybe you've fallen a victim to the mall poll or survey, where the guy comes up to you and intercepts you at the Chick-fil-A and says, I'll give you a coupon for a free sandwich if you fill out this poll or this survey. Maybe you've even come across something called a push poll, which in this environment, and we're in the political season, would be typical. You might get a call from a candidate, usually an opposition candidate. Maybe this might seem funny. It might appear in something like Jon Stewart or Colbert, but would you knowingly vote for Mitt Romney if he knew that he fathered an illegal pirate baby? Well, this is a push poll because it's designed to push you in a particular direction. Polls and surveys are direct audience analysis. They're designed to find things out about the audience using what we call closed-ended questions. Yes or no, ranking 1 through 10. Do you agree, disagree, strongly agree, strongly disagree, neutral, no opinion? They are closed-ended questions designed to put into a computer and come up with a response that said 78% of the people in the state of Florida agreed that they would not vote for Mitt Romney if they knew that he had fathered an illegal pirate baby. Now, obviously, polls and surveys, some are reputable and some are not. The most reputable is called a random sample survey, and that is that everybody has equal opportunity to be surveyed. And it's a very complicated statistical formula, which I won't get into today, but a random sample poll or a random sample survey allows everybody equal opportunity to be surveyed. And these are the things that you'll see, and oftentimes they're even used as evidence. And they're important pieces of evidence, and they're important pieces of audience analysis. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the unit on evidence. But polls and surveys are certainly one type of audience analysis. Interviews and focus groups are another. Now, an interview is different than a poll or a survey, and instead of a closed-ended question, yes or no, it allows for an open-ended question. It allows you to probe further into a topic. Imagine I'm Barbara Walters on 2020 or my celebrity interview on Academy Award night, and I got Tom Cruise in front of me, and I said, Tom, what did you do? What did you say when you proposed to Katie Holmes on that night? And what were you thinking when you jumped up and down on Oprah's couch? Well, these are questions that you could ask as you can probe further, and they have different evidentiary value, and they have different value in terms of finding things out about your audience. They're more open-ended, and you have the ability to probe and ask further questions. Focus groups are used in all sorts of mostly in consumer items. Some of you might have even been part of a focus group. and not even have known it. Focus groups are used if I want to find out the effectiveness of my product. Maybe I'm going to sell a new version of Tide, and I want to see if the color, if I change the color of the box, or if I put it in a different place in the shelf. I want to get together a group of people who are typically going to buy this product, and I want to ask them a question as to whether this is going to be effective. And I'm going to get a group of people together, and they're going to tell me whether this is effective or not. Or maybe a movie. You've heard of the alternate endings of movies. Maybe they have 2 or 3 different endings of a movie. Well, that's because they've done a focus group. They put people in a theater, and they decided which ending works best. And they have an audience meter or an applause meter, but they've conducted a focus group to decide which ending works best for that particular movie. So, interviews and focus groups are open-ended, and they allow different things, but they're all part of direct audience analysis. Now, indirect audience analysis involves using secondary data, and that is data that you don't get directly from the audience. It can be business lists. Maybe if you've ever visited something like bestbuy.com and purchased something, at the end they give you a little survey, ask you how you were you satisfied. Well, oftentimes, yes, believe it or not, that data is sold to other businesses, and that's used to market you. 18 to 49, men, women, age, income. The demographic data that's used within that particular business survey is sold to an outside company and used to market indirectly. If admissions information used to be used to market for students to an outside company. For instance, maybe I'm going to apply to University of Florida or Florida State University, University of Miami, and my admissions data was sold by the university at Capital One. And then Capital One decided how they were going to market to me. That was using secondary data that I did not directly commission, but I could access and use. Now, demographic information is a portion of secondary data. It is using statistics or characteristics of groups of people, demos of the people, graphics, pictures of people. I might use characteristics of a particular group of people to know best how to approach them. For instance, if I chose to send you out to give a speech to a group of senior citizens, how would you approach them? Well, you would use the demographic of seniors, elderly people, and you probably would think, well, what topics are most likely to appeal to senior citizens? Social Security, Medicare, retirement. These are topics that are most interesting to seniors. So demographic groups or characteristics of groups of people are oftentimes used to approach an audience. Now, in the old days, they were the only type of audience analysis we did, and they had some pros and cons. The pros are that they're easy, they're cheap, and sometimes it's the only thing that we have. The cons are that maybe I approach a particular group of people, for instance, Republicans, and I assume I'm going to address a group of Republicans and I'm going to treat them all the same. They're all gun-toting rednecks from LA, Lower Alabama. Well, is it possible that I might be addressing, as a group of Republicans, an African American female business owner who happens to be fiscally conservative and socially liberal? Maybe she's pro-choice and also pro-gun. Well, if I approached her as all Republicans are this and approach them all in the same fashion, then I'm just as likely to alienate them. And that's the disadvantage of using demographics solely as a form of audience analysis, is that groups are effective. Some groups are more than others: age, income, job, sex. Some demographics are extremely valuable, but some are not. And we run the risk of alienating, marginalizing, or stereotyping our audience. So, we've talked today about the importance of audience analysis. We've discussed a few audience analysis techniques, and we've talked about the pros and cons of demographic analysis. Hopefully, today you have a better idea and understanding and the importance of audience analysis and always keeping your audience in mind.